Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm OK, Community Executive at BYP Network. Welcome to the BYP Finance Chapter webinar discussion on how to break into finance, how to progress on your career and start your career journey in finance. If this is your first time here, welcome. Before we get started, we'd love to know where you're joining us from. So please kindly drop where you're joining us from in the comment section. I am joining from Lagos, Nigeria, to be precise. So we'd love to know where you're joining us from today. James, where are you joining us from?
I'm from London.
Awesome. So let us know in the comment section where you are joining us from. Do we have any comment yet?
Samuel's from London too. Cool, nice.
Awesome.
Newcastle.
That's great. Awesome. Thank you all for joining once again. I would love to quickly introduce us to BYP Network, particularly for anyone that is new to our community. BYP Network stands for Black Young Professional and was founded by the need to connect Black professionals and students from all over the world for role model visibility, career opportunities, business support, and ultimately to solve our own problem. Our vision is to change the Black narrative, and our mission is to advance the careers of millions of Black professionals enabled by our career advancement platform and job boards. You can join our chapter's WhatsApp group. BYP has different chapters across the globe, and Finance Chapter is one of them. So if you want to stay updated to other upcoming events, to connect with other Black professionals, you can click on the QR code, and also a link will be in the chat where you can join and connect to the BYP chapter leaders. This is our founder, Kike Oniwinde Agro. She is the founder and CEO of BYP Network. Thanks to her, we have such a platform where we can all come together to learn from experts and also to connect with one another. A quick intro about the BYP Finance Chapter lead. His name is James Lambert. He is a real estate investment professional with over a decade of experience in financial services. After moving from Brussels to London to study at the London School of Economics, he built a successful career in finance and remains passionate about supporting the next generation of professionals. Through BYP Finance, he is committed to creating opportunities for members to learn, connect, and thrive within the industry. So if you'd love to connect with James, please do well to connect with him via the WhatsApp community. And also, if probably you want to, share your wealth of knowledge with the BYP Finance Chapter, you can always reach out to James on that as well. Also, today we have two amazing speakers in the house who will be sharing powerful insights with us. We have Wilfred. He's a corporate lawyer specializing in mergers and acquisition and capital markets, qualified to practice in both Paris and New York. He has advised on major international transactions, including the Porsche IPO and bond issuances for leading financial institutions. He brings extensive experiences at the intersection of law, finance, and global capital markets. Thank you so much for joining us today, Wilfred. And we also have Tolu Smola. He's an infrastructure finance professional with experience across the energy and transport sectors. A graduate of the University of Warwick with a master's in political economy and CFA level 1. He has supported infrastructure projects across international markets, including origination work in East Africa. He's passionate about sharing practical insights to help aspiring professionals navigate the early stage of a career in finance. Thank you both for joining us this evening. We're super excited to have both of you here. And to everyone that have joined today's session, thank you so much. And I hope that you all leave with wealth of knowledge today to forge ahead in your various careers. Thank you. Over to James Lambert. We'll continue the conversation from here.
Thank you. Okay, thank you so much for the introduction and for just introducing everyone to the network as well as today's session. So I think ultimately, so just as a quick introduction, I think in my experience and sort of experience I've seen of a lot of other people, obviously building a career in finance, well, a career generally, but just specifically in finance or in some areas of the corporate world can feel quite overwhelming. Particularly sort of navigating applications, interviews, and sort of assessing which sectors, what we want to do, and effectively trying to find a pathway. And I found that particularly challenging. So when I was a student, sort of early career, And even now, to an extent, because I didn't necessarily have the right background or the right network or support or people to go and speak to find out what I wanted to do. So effectively, so this session now today, so this practical session is really designed with the aim of helping students, graduates, as well as sort of early career professionals better understand sort of how to enter the finance industry, but also just how to build hopefully a strong foundation for their career progression. So what we're going to do is go through shared experiences and different insights from the professionals. Well, so with Wilfred and Tolu who've come to join me today. Obviously, like Oki alluded to, who Tolu works in infrastructure finance investment, and Wilfred's an investment manager. Well, in Wilfred, sorry, in M&A and capital markets on the legal side. So yeah, so to finalize the session, we'll explore applications, interview preparations, personal branding, career pathways, and finally the skills that can sort of help professionals hopefully stand out. So yeah, perhaps Tolu, maybe you can give a little bit more background to you about your experience and how sort of things have been for you since you graduated.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, thanks, James. Hi everyone. So for context, I'm Tolu. I'm an investment analyst at BII, British International Investment, which is the UK's development finance institution. So I sit within the infrastructure team. I work across debt transaction within infrastructure. So we look at things like renewables, transport, more so like anything energy related, but within the green economy, like solar, wind, battery storage, things like that. And we invest across emerging markets. I came through to infrastructure finance actually through a non-cognate route. So I studied history at the University of Warwick, and then I studied political economy in Manchester. And I think these two degrees really taught me to how to understand things like, for example, like country risk and sovereign risks, things that you really look into, especially when you work in infrastructure, and those are the kind of governments and counterparties that you deal with. So before I was here, I did a few internships when I was in uni. So one of them was in an asset manager, and then the other one was in consulting, just to figure out kind of where I wanted to be in. Currently, I do things like writing IC papers, do a lot of financial modeling, and I've, been lucky enough to pass my CFA level one exam. So
Yeah.
yeah, that just
Totally sorry, just to interject very quickly. I just wanted to know, I guess you studied history and political economy, right? So I guess how did you position yourself and your skills and experience when sort of moving into and wanting to transition to infrastructure? Sorry to interrupt.
no worries at all. Yeah, I do like of course, I'm always feel to see it. Always feel normal to interject. But I of course, with my non-cognitive degree, what worked for me was not to necessarily, apologize for the degree that I had, but instead build a narrative around it. For example, political economy in itself taught me the ability to, read policy, understand regulations, and look at country risk in a way that a finance degree just doesn't teach, which matters a lot, especially in the infrastructure field in emerging markets in which I work in. And I also didn't sort of wait for a perfect routine. I applied very broadly. You know, I was very open to where I wanted to work in, and I think that was very important because then I took a role that gave me a real experience of having multiple deal experience, even if it wasn't in the so-called prestige name. And of course, I let the work speak for me from there.
Okay, thanks. Thank you very much, Tolu. Wilfred, do you mind quickly just giving a bit of overview and background on your career to date and sort of the key moments that have shaped it?
Sure. So I was born and raised in Paris. My parents from Cameroon. My initial goal was to play football, but it didn't really work out. And my parents were like, "You need to go to school." So I went to uni. Uh, my major, the A level, was math and science, and I was like, "I don't want to do it." So I did the total opposite, which was law. And I didn't have anybody in my family who went to law school, so I kind of had to like figure it out. So I just passed the years, and then I had some family in America, so after graduating from law school in France, I went over to America, graduated, got a second degree, then took the New York bar exam. And because of my background, I had a mentor who told me that I should work for an international firm. That's how I joined an international firm, and they kind of like really lead you to either transactional work, which is, to make it simple, paperwork for big company, or litigation, which is commercial. I'm not gonna say go to court because we don't really go to court that much, but let's say go to court. And I was not really a litigator, so that's kind of how I ended up being a transactional work, working on M&A and capital markets. And then I started in Paris, and then I moved to London. Uh, yeah, basically.
Okay, thanks. Thank you very much. So maybe just to provide quick background to everyone, into sort of my career to date. So I think so. I started out not really knowing well, broadly that I wanted to work in finance, but I didn't really know what. Um, and so I kind of ended up falling into a role as an asset manager a couple of years back before COVID, sort of working in capital markets, in equities, sort of working as sort of the most junior person on a team there in real estate equities. And that's sort of how I fell into real estate. Well, sort of ended up, sorry, into real estate. And I think for me, the journey was sort of first of all doing that, and then I wanted to sort of work in the more sort of underlining physical asset side of real estate. So actually looking at real estate assets as opposed to sort of looking at real estate companies and investing into them sort of via their shares, as an equity investment team does. And so I've since then, basically since that first role, moved a few companies over the years, but effectively always worked in an investment and asset management capacity, basically looking at across Europe and the UK, different sectors of real estate, so offices, retail, hotels, residential, etc. And so it wasn't really planned, but that's sort of how my career evolved. So I think maybe just bringing it back, guys, what do you think is, with, I guess my question would be, what is one lesson which perhaps you've learned early in your career, or something that you'd wish you'd known starting out?
I can start. I think one of the lesson is what's like studying and working is two different words. Like especially when you're junior, what you do is it may seem very trivial or not very important, but what you need to look at is the bigger picture. Basically, you're part of a big transaction where like people with like 20 years of experience are doing like I don't know, like more intellectual stuff, but they need you to do like the more trivial stuff because they don't have time to like do those stuff. But if you don't do it well, the entire transaction is not going to work. So uh, you may think, oh, I'm going to get into finance, and that's how it looks like. It's probably not going to look like what you think it looks like, but you need to be focused on the bigger picture and the long run. And because the reason why I'm saying that is like a lot of people, they graduate, they're like very smart, and they're being asked to do like very minor tasks, and they're like, oh, what am I doing with my life? Or I really don't like it. So it's just like this discrepancies between what you think finance is, or working in finance is, and what it actually is. And it took me some time to adjust, but I think yeah, that was a big misconception.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I mean, I think yeah, I can echo that a bit. Or at least the expectation is sometimes a bit different, and you realize that you kind of need to learn quite a bit, and maybe take a step back and do some things which at times are a bit more basic compared to sort of the education which you might have had to learn. But yeah, so totally. If you have any examples?
Yeah, no, thank you. Just to echo what Wilfred said, of course. I think the most important thing for me, in terms of a lesson would have been to just be a lot more inquisitive. Just and also accepting that you might not understand everything. When you let's say like you're an intern, for example, or like you're an analyst, and there might be something that you're stuck on that you feel that perhaps you should know. Um, it's always good to ask. It's always good to tell someone that you're working with within a team that, can you explain this to me? I don't understand these things. I think when I started out, I really, really struggled to just have the courage to ask someone for help. And I think that's something that you're going to have to learn starting out. You might have to learn it the hard way or the easy way, but communication is one of the most important things. And I think it just comes down again to being inquisitive and just having the courage to speak up.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That makes sense. That makes sense. And I think so. Maybe sorry, Wilfred, we're going to say something.
Just to rebound on what just Tolu just said. So every time I had an intern, I'm telling them like, because you're an intern, you're not supposed to know anything because as I said, what you've learned in actually working is two different things. Graduating means you're smart, but like the job, basically like you're gonna be taught by people working there. And as an intern or as a junior, you have the card to ask any stupid question. But if you don't ask question, then the more you're getting experience, people will assume that you actually know because you never asked. While as a junior, you can ask any question because we're here to like teach you. So I think that's how you have to see it. You have a card to be like, I'm new, I don't know anything, and if you don't know, just ask. And no one is expecting you to know.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. And then maybe just taking a step back, I think, is like like we mentioned, obviously finance is very broad as an industry. And I guess for someone who's starting out, how would you advise them, or how would you tell them to think about, what areas maybe best align with their skills and their interests? So I think, ultimately that is the starting point, just to quickly take it back there before we progress. Do you have any sort of idea? I mean, for me personally, I think reaching out to as much as possible to people from different industries or different asset classes or different companies even, and trying to, even if it's relatively superficial at the beginning, just try and get an insight, whether it's a conversation, a phone call, an email, a coffee, even if possible, to try and understand what the work entails on the day to day, whether that's a sort of a more junior employee. But yeah, do you have any other bits of advice?
Yeah, if I could opine, I would say the most important bit of advice is probably to take a bit of step back and don't necessarily go for an area that sounds prestigious. So start from the work that you actually just like to do day to day. So for me, I would split it into three axes. A, do you like building things? This could be things through like, building financial models, but just even before that, do you just like building things in general? Do you like to sell things? So in the finance field, you'll be doing things like origination or building client relationships. But again, just to take a step back, do you like to sell things? Do you have like a business? Do you have something that you just enjoy doing? Do you want to specialize in a sector or do you want to stay generalist? This depends on your own personal interest. Do you want the speed of public markets or do you want the kind of depth and expertise of private markets? Again, it's just down to you as a person. For me personally, I came through project finance because it let me combine a genuine interest in energy and also emerging markets that also I can benefit from actually gaining the analytical work as well. But I only realized this through doing internships and having calls across people in different industries and different areas. I didn't just read a guide to start a finance career, and that's how I ended up here. You actually have to start building the relationships and speaking to people. Talk to five people, five different people doing five different jobs before you find something. Talk to people across all in different industries, not even just finance, just different industries. Learn how to build relationships with people. I think that for me is how I helped kind of narrow down a bit more as to what field I want to work into.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. That's really helpful. Thank you. Thank you. And then I guess maybe moving on to sort of the stage of maybe applications and sort of standing out. What are common mistakes which you've seen candidates make, whether that's CVs, applications, cover letters? I mean, obviously the obvious ones are obviously spelling mistakes. Accuracy is very important. Not add, being relatively concise, using action words, so verbs where you sort of can tangibly illustrate or demonstrate what you've done, what your involvement has been. But do you have any other? So those are some examples. But do you have any other examples of things which have stood out for you, or even from your own experience when you've applied and you've at some point maybe been rejected?
I guess yes, what you just said, like spelling mistakes, like yeah, you need. I mean, in 2026, you have AI, or like your CV or your letters should not be any grammar issues. Like we have so many tools, should be yeah. Like the other thing I will say, be like be how do you say that? Like when you target a company or like a firm or like a sector, try to be as specific as possible. Basically, you need to make the firm believe that they are special and you want to work for them, or for that team, or for that person. Not like you can just copy and paste the same thing for like 20 different firms, because like as Tolu said, maybe some they're targeting like emerging markets, other like Europe or America, and like the narrative cannot match all of them. So you need to make the company feel special. It's like if you go on a date, you need to make them believe that they are the one and no one else. Kind of, if I can picture it.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. And I think, I mean, I don't know for your experiences, but at least for me, I mean, I remember applying to a lot and a lot and a lot of jobs, specifically the university, and even during that period, um, just really trying to throw as much against the wall and see if anything sticks, kind of approach. Um, but do you have any? I mean, I guess how is it for you guys in terms of getting to where you wanted? Because I think a quick point I just want to touch on is sort of resilience. I think because it's really it's not easy sometimes. You sorry. Oh. So no, I was just saying it can be very difficult, and you need to be persistent. You can opportunities that you really wanted can go by the can you can basically miss them, and you can at times sometimes perhaps having more negative thoughts to believe that you're not going to make it or whatever. And so I think what's maybe if you could just touch a quick point on that, because I think for me that's been very important, because you sort of not giving up and sort of being very persistent, even when things weren't looking that good, or that positive in terms of outlook, and really just I don't know. Do you have any sort of examples or any tangible examples which you've experienced? Do you want to go first? I'll just
Yeah, happy to. Yeah, yeah. So I think the main thing in terms of resilience for me was um, still kind of knowing what I wanted to do. You know, I knew I left university and I was in an internship, but um, I unfortunately get a return offer, so I was a bit gutted and I was a bit sad. And then within that year, I just said to myself, you know what, I'm just gonna get out there and try and you know, get some experience, and maybe I can try again with a master's. So within then, I did an internship in consulting, still within the ESG field. It was completely far off, what I was used to, which was working in finance, but I did it mostly so I could learn about a different industry, learn about a different sector, and just learn how different people operate in terms of the working environment. Um, for me, being able to step out of my comfort zone and kind of go for sort of things that weren't even in the field, weren't that were not as much as in the field I was interested in, but I still gave it a chance. I think that's one way you can really build resilience because, you'll be able to learn from all these different experiences that you have. I think another way to build resilience, and it's a key thing, I touched on it a bit before, but it was just knowing your why, know why you want to work in finance.
Yeah.
It shouldn't just be, of course, a lot of people want to work in finance for monetary gain. It's an obvious one, but you should also have a reason, more of a reason that's deeper and more personal to you as to why you want to work in finance because you won't survive. Um, do you actually enjoy economics? Do you actually enjoy looking at numbers? Do you actually enjoy, debating with people or like having discussions with people about transaction, about anything? Um, do you like for me, for example, I like energy, I like the transport sector, just infrastructure in general, I like economics. That's why I wanted to work in finance. So just kind of find your reason as to why and where in finance you want to work in. And then I think that way that's your baseline level of resilience and you can just build on top of that through, just being open to any opportunity, really. Just open your door, open as many doors as you possibly can for yourself. Reach out to people, speak to people, use networks, use, organizations like BYP. There are so many different people that, are connected with these organizations and just individuals. And it's just really good to have those in your network because you never know. A door could open and it might be something you didn't expect. So you should always have that sort of resilience and have that mindset that you need to expand your network and also just know why you actually want to work in finance.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Tony. That's really helpful. And I think it's true, like you said. I mean, I think from my experience, at least the opportunities I think that I've had, or that when I did finally get the job that I wanted, it's often been when I least expected it. So yeah, I won't make any funny jokes or references to looking for love or dating, Wilfred, but similarly, it's often been when it's been least expected. So I think maybe perhaps talking about interviews and preparation. What do you?
Just,
I mean, what?
just sorry, just to come back on resilience.
Yeah,
Uh, I think it's a very competitive market. It's quite hard, but like I guess I will say two things. Like first, like sometime you can like if you did whatever you could, sometimes you're allowed to have a day off and be like, it's hard today. I will start again tomorrow. Like it's okay. Like it's because it's a long game. And yes, it takes time, but the second point is like if you feel like you're in this like there's no hope, you need to think about you probably don't know anyone who spent his entire life reach 80 and never find a job. So you will find a job. It doesn't like no one knows anyone that from like 18 or 20 to like 90 never worked. So everyone at some point finds something. Sometimes it's not a straight shot and the perfect job, and but then it leads to another one a little bit like Tolu said, and then it leads to the one you really want. But you will find something because eventually everyone does. So when you feel hopeless, just remind yourself that you don't know anyone that never found a job in his life. That you just like if you need to think rationally, just think about, okay, it would happen. I don't know when,
yeah,
but it will eventually happen.
yeah, yeah. No, you're right. You're absolutely right. And I think maybe just a last point to add on that, or at least I think what I've noticed in my experience and experience of peers and friends who sort of started their career at the same time, is that for very, very few of them, or very few of us, have sort of gone down the path that we first imagined 10 years ago. So I think it's kind of ultimately goes back to the point of flexibility and sort of the openness of opportunities, which you brought up, Tolu. And also with that, the the resilience that it might not be what you first expected, but ultimately you will with persistence get to where you want to with the right approach. So just quickly on interviews and preparation, guys, do you I think what in your opinion, what makes a candidate memorable for the right reasons, obviously, not for the negative, not on the negative side. And what do you think would be perhaps actually just starting with that. Yeah, what would be a way to stand out in your experience?
If I could go, but a way that would be good to stand out in your interviews would just be really human. You have to just know how to speak like a normal person, essentially, because you have to remember this is this is someone that is interviewing you because they think that you're going to be at the firm for like 5, 10 years, and they want to be able to work with you for, let's say, I don't know, 200 or 300 days of those 5, 10 years. Every single day is exactly what I'm trying to say. So you need to just learn how to be as human as possible. For example, I think when I had an interview when I was in uni, one of the interviewers had asked me, because I put in my interview, one of my interests is vlogging and traveling and stuff, which is true. One of the interviewers had asked me, actually, what do you enjoy about it? And I talked about how, I want to reach an age where I'm like 45, 50, God willing, and my childhood, see all of the memories that I've made traveling and things. And, I want them to kind of live the kind of similar life that I did in terms of my traveling and experiences that I've done. And being able to record these things is what was very important to me. And that's what the message I relayed to the interviewer. And of course, they're able to see that this person is not just someone that would just be working 24/7 and just have nothing going on for them. They want someone that's interesting, someone that's personal, someone that has things that he can talk about. Another thing as well that's very important is just be honest about your gaps. Like we've talked about before, internships, and analyst roles, they know that you don't know everything. They know that you don't know financial modeling. They know that you don't know every single thing about the economy. Um, no matter how smart you think you are, you're not. So be honest about your gaps and don't try and make things up as you go. If they ask you a question and you actually don't know, then just say, I don't know. Of course, in a more professional way, but the main thing is just shouldn't you you should be honest about where you are. So I think that for me is what makes a candidate very memorable, those two ways.
Yeah, nice. And you, Wilfred?
So for me,
Thanks.
two things. It's a little bit like basically you need to think about the way Tolu said is like basically like as he said, you're gonna work with that person for a long time or long hours. And as I said, it's before you need to think a little bit like a date. Like they are like, do I like this person? Do I see myself spending like days? Because you're actually spending a lot of time. Like either if it's a 9 to 6 or it's a 9 to 12, it's a lot of time. So it's like, is that person excited about the job? Is that person excited about like working in finance? Like why? And uh, and you need to see it the opposite way. Like if you were the one interviewing, like what would you think they would like? What would you think you would like about the other person? So that's kind of how you need to think about it. Maybe like you both like football, maybe you both like, but you need to find a connection. You need to find a connection, basically, a connection, and to make it feel like human to get back to. And as well, the other thing they usually like is like you need to make them feel special. You need to make them feel like this is a place and no other place. Even if you every time you go to an interview, you need to make the like this is the best company. Why? This is the best team. Why? Because they like to like this like everyone likes to make to feel like they are the one or they are special or if you I meet you and I'm telling you, oh, you you wrote this song, this is amazing. You will enjoy it. If you go and watch you play football and say, oh, what an amazing player, you feel good. And that's the same way, like you need to make them feel good about the place they work. If they wrote an article, you need to be like, oh, I wrote that article. I thought that was very smart for that reason. And like they would feel like, oh, this person, look at my article. And they they will feel good about themselves, and that's how you need to think about. And maybe as well, you can go to the interview and if you feel like the person is very boring and you really don't feel it, and maybe that's not the place you want to work. So I know we don't really think it that way, but it's a two-way street. So
Yeah.
that's like, that would be my, like, make them feel special, be prepared, like get to know what the company does, what the team does. If you can do a little bit like Google that person and find maybe like when you know who you're going to interview, like Google that person, try to see if they have different interests. Maybe they are like a Chelsea fan and you're a Chelsea fan, and boom, you have a connection. Or maybe they like art, or maybe
Yeah.
they did some pro bono for hospital near your house, and then you have a connection. Like you have something to talk about, and they will feel, oh, like we share something in common. We can bond about something, and yeah, I think that would be my advice. So be prepared. Google the person, try to get information about the person,
Yeah.
try to get as much information about what they do, like what the company does, like get as much information about them. So then you can see, okay, is that the type of person, or is that the type of place I would like to work for? And is that the type of person I feel comfortable around? Because
Yeah.
as Tolu said, you will spend a lot of time with that person.
Thank you so much. Thanks,
Sorry,
guys.
if I were to open just to
Yeah.
go a bit further than that in terms of working in the finance sector. So when you're in the investments, let's say you're in PE, IB, asset management, just anywhere across, you should really be looking at the kind of transactions that the company you're interviewing for does. If you're applying for a front office role, just look at it. Pick 3 to 5 different deals. Um, Understand the amount, how the deal was structured, who was in on it. For example, one of your interviewers might have also done work on that deal. So if you're able to explain that length, that would impress your interviewers. It's like, think about it in the other way. If you're
Yeah.
interviewing someone and they've clearly shown that they've done their research on a deal that you worked on, you'll be like, wow, this person's actually gone further over and beyond compared to the other guys that are saying, I want to work here because it's the best company in the rankings, in the project finance rankings, for example, or like M&A rankings, or I don't know, TNT rankings.
Yeah.
You want to get someone that's a bit more different than that, which is exactly why I say just understand the kind of deals and nature of the deals the company that you're going to interview with does, and understand what your interviewer also does in terms of what the desk does, if who the head of the team is. These are just different ways where you can set yourself apart from other candidates, and it's something that's really helped me personally.
Yeah. No, you're so right. You're so right. So thanks for mentioning it. That listen, guys, I think I've got maybe just one more question. I think on career progression. Okay, I don't know how much, just to leave enough time for Q&A and stuff. But I think maybe last question. Or last thing I'd like to talk about maybe very quickly, and this is like twofold, but it's so in terms of career progression. So when you start your first role or first internship or whatever, where do you guys think the focus should be in terms of sort of building and starting to build a career foundation? But then secondly, and I think this is perhaps more important, is how early on do you think that young professionals can sort of what can they do to be intentional about their career progression, but without sort of feeling pressured to have their whole career mapped out, which I think is something which you can feel a little bit more, you're junior in the first couple of years of working. And, to your point, Wilfred, I think you mentioned it is really, a career is ultimately a marathon as opposed to a sprint. And that in hindsight, for me at least, being in a few years in now, it's all those sort of relative differences which might have sort of occurred or been visible early on in my career sort of dissipate the further you go along. And so, whether you're 5, 10, 15 years in, it doesn't, your role, your title, none of all of these things matter less and less. And so, yeah, just balancing back to my point. What do you guys think?
I can take the first one and you can take the second one if you want. So the first one, you need to be good at what you are asked to do. So even if it's the most minor or the most trivial or the stupid, like the thing you think is irrelevant, you need to be good. You need to do it at 100%. Because then if they give you, let's say, a finger and you do it well, then they will give you 2 fingers, then 3 fingers, then a hand, then the arms. And you need to be trusted to do like the small thing, then you will be trusted to do the bigger thing. But because at the beginning they don't know you, so they will give you like small tasks. And if they see okay, he's taking it seriously, then and they see they can trust you, then they will give you a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. And when you say something, you need to deliver. If you say, I'm gonna do it by like by Tuesday, do it by Tuesday, or even try to do it by Monday. So then they're like, you over deliver, but don't say, I'm gonna do it by Tuesday and then you do it by Wednesday. This is not working. So yeah, try to, as to say, ask question. If you don't know, just say I don't know, because you're junior, you're not supposed to know anything, so it's okay. And it shows interest. So asking question. If you said I'm gonna do it by Tuesday, and you feel like in Monday won't be able to deliver, flag it. Don't be afraid to be like, yeah, I'm not gonna be able to do it. Flag it as early as possible, because we can always rearrange. But if you show up on Tuesday and it's not done and you said you will do on Tuesday, it's too late. But if you say like on Monday, hey, Monday morning, I don't think I'll be able to deliver, then like the person above you can like reshuffle stuff, and then we end up as a team delivering on time. But if you don't do that, then as I said, like the pyramid, like the people at the top, they say like you're not reliable. So that's an issue. So be good at the smallest thing, basically.
Thanks, Bilford. Thanks. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I agree 100%. Tori, do you want to quickly pick up on the second part?
Yeah. No, Wilfred, I totally agree with everything you said as well. Yeah, it's perfect. Perfectly explained. So on the question of how can I be more intentional about my progression, so if I have to be honest, totally frank with you, I actually don't have the next 10 years planned at all. I have a direction that I want to take my life to in terms of my career, and I test it every day against what I actually do, rather than treating, like a 5, 10 year plan as a fixed plan. So right now, for example, I'll take some parts of my role that points towards the direction that I want to, or something, even if it's not necessarily required of me. Like I've done my own, I've done a bit of my own origination, for example. I've gone beyond what's required of an analyst. And I stay in conversation with more senior people across all in different industries, not even just within the business, and especially in roles that I think that I want. So the direction itself gets corrected by information that's been given to me. And again, that's why I stress the importance of networking, because that's how you're actually able to gather this information of where you want your career to go. And it's not necessarily, against the plan in terms of my direction. I don't necessarily base off a plan where, I have to do by 5, 10 years from now, I have to be in this position doing this exact same thing. It's just roughly, do I like origination? Do I like financial modeling? Yes. Okay. Look at roles where I can specialize, where I can sort of perfect this craft. That's how I see being intentional being.
I think I just to quickly to finalize on that, I agree. So I think, so my understanding of your approach is kind of focusing on the skills, responsibilities, and the tasks that you enjoy and where sort of your strengths lie, and sort of seeing where you can expand those, apply those, etc., as opposed to having a mapped out career path, which from my observation, at least, isn't linear, certainly isn't rigid, and if anything, going back to what we've all been discussing, does require a degree of flexibility because that's how things work. So, okay, I think that was the summary and the main points I think we wanted to talk about. Should we move on to Q&A if we still have a bit of time?
Yes, so we have questions. We have
Yeah,
questions
sorry.
in the comment section.
Yeah,
And
sorry.
Amanda Ife's hand is also up.
Yes, please go ahead, Amanda.
Morning, guys. Evening, guys. Thank you so much for that presentation. That was really insightful. I wanted to know your thoughts on how AI has changed how you do your job and how receptive your companies have been to the use of AI. I think automative AI in what you do. That's one question. The second question is, whenever I think of finance, I feel like it's a very male-dominated industry. How much do you see representation in terms of gender, disability, all the protected characteristics? How do they show up in your work? And do you feel like you can really bring your authentic self into work? And then, sorry, my last question is, how often do you guys have to code switch? Like, how are you yourself at work? Do you show up as yourself? I mean, Wilfred, you talked about a really interesting history of wanting to be a footballer. I'm sure you speak French and having that international background. And both you and Tolio and James as well. How do you feel like you need to code switch when you get into work? Thanks.
Thanks, Amanda, for the question. I'm happy to just quickly try and answer from my perspective. So first of all, on the AI point, I think so. I work in real estate investment, which is typically kind of a very old-fashioned industry, where technology hasn't really been embraced as to the extent it could or should be, and so generally very receptive. From my experience, companies want to use it more and more and want to sort of understand how they can better understand and sort of analyze and interpret data. So on that point, and then on the second point, so similarly, real estate is, there's, I think, finance broadly, but real estate even more so within that. There is unfortunately a sort of lack of representation. Race and gender. I think from the gender point, at least in real estate, that's changing, or at least from what I've seen over the past 5 years. There is more, we are seeing, generally there are more women in senior positions, and that has a ripple effect, which then allows or encourages women to then apply because obviously there's the relatability. Race a little bit. I mean, there's not that many. It has improved. I think it is generally improving and we're going in the right direction, but there's still quite a bit of work to do in terms of that. And so ultimately, I think whilst I do try and bring the most authentic version of myself to work nowadays, much more than when I started, there is still unfortunately a bit of a sort of a code switch, so to speak. But work in progress. Leave to you guys.
I can go. So first question, AI. So I guess it depends. It really depends of the law firms. Like some are like more into it than others. So it's quite hard to like speak for every single firm. Some are really like into AI, like pouring money into it. Other a little bit less, but there's always like the small task that can be used through AI. But I think in like 5 to 10 years, probably almost everyone will be using it a lot or mainly, but it's just everyone has a different pace. The second point, what was the second question again? Sorry.
It's more about like how authentic can you be?
Ah,
The whole.
So, yeah, this one. So I heard like so many like debates about like how you should be fully yourself. I think it really depends on like who you're working with. Like you kind of need to assess like every firm, every team. It depends like let's say you're working with me and Tolu, you'll probably feel more like you feel like you have to to you don't have to switch code as much as if you're working with like I don't know John like 58 different generation.
Yeah.
So it really depends on who you're working with, I think. And as well, you have to see it like it's still a job. It's not like it's with your friends. You know what I mean? It's like it's two different words. Like it's not your hobby. It's not with your family. It's like you will not interact the same way you interact with your friend as you with your mom. Or with your dad, or with your uncle, or with like at the end of the day, it's still a job. But then, like, depending who you're working with, like, sometimes, like, some of your colleagues, they're going to become your friend and you don't really need to switch, and some people, it's
Yeah.
John 58, big partner, you want to interact the same way. So you kind of have to, like, assess the situation and, like, see who you're working with. And some people you will get along more and other people not as much, but it's a job at the end of the day. You like at the end you clock out and it is what it is. What was the last question?
That was
About the
the
women.
response. Huh?
Yeah,
So,
women. So in law, uh, more and more, and I think it's probably almost 50-50 in junior position. But the
oh,
thing is like it's extremely demanding. And then like some women, not only for that, but like basically like at more senior position, there are still a lot of work. But like junior, I think it's like more and more women are graduating from law school, probably even more women than men. So at the like junior position and mid-level, it's like pretty much 50-50, but there's still a lot of work at more senior position, I would say. And yeah, way more like white male over whatever age at the more senior position. And I think that's where they're trying to put some work to make it more fair. So yeah.
yeah. Tolu, what's your
Yeah,
thanks,
thanks.
Wilfred, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Wilfred. Thanks, James, as well for the earlier comments. I'm not going to repeat the same thing as all you've said, but I'll try and tackle the three questions. So for one, the first one is an AI point. Personally, I use AI quite a bit. Um, I use it in my personal life, for example, just to make your life easier, simpler. And this could also be stretched out to your normal day-to-day job. You could just be doing something very, something that might take you, for example, a week, will take you like a few hours. Um, Trying to find different ways to be more efficient in terms of how you are as a person. I think AI is just brilliant for that. And just being able to synthesize the information to like an understandable level. Like, for example, I said like not all questions are stupid, but you shouldn't probably go to your director and ask him what are revenues, for example. Um, Questions like those you can put to AI, it's like it's completely neutral. And AI for me has been really helpful in terms of just really learning and understanding finance from a more basic concept. So yeah, just that's on the AI point. The second point was on diversity. So we still have this problem slash issue of the fact that the finance field is still very much white male dominated, but more so within the junior ranks, the analysts, the associates, we're a lot more diverse in terms of gender, diverse in terms of race, and also neurodivergence as well is becoming increasingly popular. Is becoming an increasing number in the junior positions. So yeah, so I would still implore you to apply. I wouldn't use. I'm not saying you are, but I wouldn't use the points of the fact that it's still white male dominated as a reason that you wouldn't apply because it's changing. It's changing amongst the junior, the analysts, the associates. There's a lot more black people. There's a lot more women in the work in the finance field. There's a lot of organizations like that target these populations, and I would deploy you to join them, and then of course make use of them. That networking organization. So always good to have in and growing your network out, especially amongst people that are also of Black or over ethnic minorities. And the code switching point. So I apologize and I hate to break it to you, but yeah, you're gonna have to code switch. And it's it's something that Wilfred touched upon, they're not your friends. It's a workplace. For example, if imagine like someone that's completely a different culture to you, and you speak to them and in a way where that you would speak to, your other people, like let's say from London. Like imagine you're using like slang to someone that's from France. They'll look at you and say, "What are you talking about?" You know? So you have to
Yeah.
be cognizant of the fact that, not everyone might understand you. And necessarily it's a professional setting. Um, they're not your friends, they're your co-workers. Of course, you should still build normal, healthy relationships with people in a friendly professional capacity. But you know, I wouldn't say you should necessarily get too comfortable and too casual with your co-workers. It's just trying to find that right balance. And like Wilfred touched upon as well, you would make friends in the workplace. You will have friends. There'll be people that, that you might think are cool, interesting people and that you want to be friends with. And then if you leave or they leave, you continue that friendship. There's nothing wrong with that. But as for like the code switching point, you might not have to code switch too much depending on the team that you'll be joining. But you should, you're gonna have to, and I think it would be good if maybe like this was probably what was very helpful for me, and it might be helpful for everyone, but it's to have friends across all different, identities, have neurodivergent friends, have friends that are from LGBTQ, have friends from different races. Just being able to have like different sets of friendship groups, you're able to know how to speak to anyone and everyone. And that's something you're going to do in the workplace because in the workplace, everybody's from different walks of life. Even if they might be white, for example, they might be French, they might be Norwegian, they might be Swedish, they might be, any other European country, Greek, Italian, and especially in finance, they're likely to be, it's a very much European dominated industry, especially in London. So you just need to be comfortable knowing how to just speak to people in general. And I think it would then just be easier for you to not really see it as a code switch necessarily, but more of a, using more of a way where you can just use another part or use another way of speaking that you've learned from having just different sets of friends.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, guys. Do we have any more questions as it stands?
Yes, we have one more question in the chat. Yes, so this is from Samuel. It says, to how do you think pursuing additional qualifications in finance roles demonstrates to the company that you actually like finance, especially if you're from traditional engineering background?
Did you want to start with that? Go ahead, Tony. Yeah.
Yeah, more than happy to start. Um, I would say it definitely helps. It definitely helps show your interest. For context, I did level one CFA, and this in part, this was the reason. The reason I did it was because, of course, I came through the non-cognitive background, so I wanted to really learn finance, and I thought the best way for me to do that would be through taking level one. That for me wasn't my reason as to why I wanted to do it, unless the companies and the attraction and things, because it's how you use the CFA, the CFA, for example, or just even qualifications, they open doors. And of course, these are good things that you can use to open doors, but it's not the be all and end all. You're still going to be assessed. Still going to be tested on how you actually understand and can apply finance. It might get you through to the interview round, for example, but if you bomb the interview, then there's nothing you can really discuss from there. So I think you should look at these professional qualifications less of in a way of making yourself more attractive to companies. I mean, two things can be true, that is still happening, but you should use it more as a way to drive, your passion slash understanding for finance. Because if you want to do it in a way, if you only want to do it in a way where you're just attractive to companies, it would be very difficult to keep that energy throughout the course of studying for the exam. It's a very difficult exam, see the CFA anyway, and
Yeah.
you need to have that sort of inner desire of, I'm doing this because I want to learn, not I'm doing this because I want a job, and try and learn, speak to people, tell people, I'm studying the CFA. These things all make you look more attractive, but at the end of the day, it's about how well you actually use it, and more so whether or not you can get yourself into doors. Because even if you come from a traditional engineering background, there's people that have been from engineering backgrounds that haven't done a CFA and they work in finance. So it's all about how many doors you can open.
No, I agree. Just maybe my quick to my advice, sorry, or my opinion on that is, yeah, I agree. Thanks, Tolu. That's super helpful. I think I also did say for level one. I think to go back to your point, it was really helpful for me to learn the basics because it's very broad. It's a lot of studying, um, but it gives you a foundation across in breadth across all areas of finance, specific for the CFA. Obviously, there's other qualifications, accounting, tax, etc. But for the CFA, whether accounting, financial reporting, economics, fixed income, equities, alternative investments. So you get to see a breadth of all aspects and sort of areas of finance. And what it can do afterwards is it can also help inform you what you ultimately find interesting, which sort of to add to your point, Tolu. So I think, yeah, ultimately it's really beneficial for yourself from a learning perspective. And I don't know for you, Tony, but I part of the reason I did it too was also just to legitimize, I think, myself in terms of my experience, because I didn't necessarily take a linear path. I didn't study finance university, so yeah, hopefully that's helpful.
Great,
Just to
thank
touch
you.
on,
So because
sorry,
of
just
our time,
Yeah.
oh, you can go ahead, Tolu. You can go ahead.
I don't know, thank you. Just wanted to just make a just
Okay,
quick
so
closing. Oh,
we have one more question, and this is going to be the final one
Yeah.
because of our time.
Yeah.
This is from Kin Chao. I hope I pronounced your name well. I don't have a degree, but a 10 years hospitality background. Hospitality was never my passion. I'm about to start an entry-level position at a bank. How far can I go? I'm willing to get required certifications.
Thanks. Sorry, was the question how far? Can you? I missed the.
How far can I go? I am willing to get required certifications.
Listen, I'll keep it very simple from my response, and I'll leave it to you guys. You can go, you can go as far as you want. Honestly, I think it depends what you want, how much you want it, and again, going back and tying it back to all the discussion, being flexible, being resilient, being open to sort of speaking to the right people, networking, etc., and being patient. Because ultimately, so I also started in hospitality. I never knew that I'd be in real estate. And never imagined that I'd be doing what I'm doing now. And so, you know, with faith that the right things will happen at the right time, and just sort of focusing on the things that yourself or you can control. I think ultimately, you will go far and you will do well.
Yeah. And to come back to what I said, like you will be given like small tasks. If you do it well, then you'll be given like bigger and bigger tasks. So there's no limit as long as you're like being good at what you've been asked, like people will trust you and will want to work more and more with you. So really, as he said, there's no limit. As long as you can perform, people will enjoy working with you and just give you more and more and more, basically.
Yeah. Thanks, Wilfred. Thanks.
Awesome. Do you have anything to say?
yeah. No, it's just to echo on the same point.
Okay,
You
awesome.
know, I would always implore that there is no task that's smaller than you. Um, Even if it's the easiest, the most simple thing, and it might take a while, just do it. Prove to them that it is the easiest and simple thing that won't take you that long. Um, don't do it, don't and rush it. Sorry, don't do it and then rush it and then, come back and there's errors to it. Really show them why the task is easy for you, but you don't have to say that the task is too easy for me. There's no task smaller than you.
Mm,
You're always going to be doing things that you don't enjoy in work, like no matter what, no matter the position. There's directors, there's MDs, there's heads of teams, there's CEOs. there's founders that do things that they absolutely hate. It's just part of the job. So you just have to get used to it. And like I said, just start, because at the end of the day, it really shows that you're building your resilience and you're actually learning skills as well. So that's all I have on that.
Thank you so much, Tolu.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. So we have just the last questions, and then we can continue the conversations in the chat. Please feel free to join the BYP Finance Chapter via the link in the comments. So this is the last question, and this is from Samuel. On the topic of hospitality, do you think part-time roles should be emphasized when applying for jobs, assuming it closes employment gaps?
Did you want to go, Tolu? I just saw that you were ready to answer, I think.
Yeah. No, but I'm happy to take this one. It actually speaks to me. So before I joined BII, I was actually working in a as a customer service in a gambling shop. But of course, while I was still doing the interviews, I had demonstrated and showed them, even though I'm working here, this is why I want to be in finance. It's always good to have A, job experience, and B, know how to relate that experience to the kind of job that they do. For example, when you're in hospitality, I presume you'd be working in a team. Teamwork is the most important thing in the finance industry, like no matter what. So you can describe examples on where you've done things, you've worked in a team. What have you done? What was your role? And how that can relate to the finance industry. Just have those little examples. Because for one, you should always be working. And if you're interviewing while you're working, it shows that you have some sort of persistence as well to be able to get to that stage while also having a job. And B, it also shows that that you can kind of go over and beyond only if you're able to relate those transferable skills to that specific job. So yeah, because of course, like when you're applying for these entry level roles, you're applying as an analyst, you don't know anything. Most people that are young, or even in their 30s, they come from hospitality and they end up in finance. They come from, I think a friend of mine came from the military and it ended up in finance. And the core and crux of it really is the transferable skills and being able to also learn what they're doing in a job. Don't necessarily look at what you're currently doing now and think about it too much. Look at what you want to do and whether or not that company you're applying to or interviewing with actually aligns with that and aligns with your vision. That's the only thing you can really show.
Thanks,
But
Tolu.
sorry, just to touch on a point, but the on the part-time roles point when applying to jobs, I'm not sure about emphasized. If you can maybe talk about other things that you've done in uni, you should always still mention it, still talk about it. But on the point of whether or not it should be emphasized, if you've done anything, that has any relation to do with finance in uni, for example, let's say you were in the finance society or the asset management society or something like that, and you wrote a stock pitch and you delivered those presentations, you worked as the pension secretary in ACS, these little things like that, then be able to talk about it. And I would say maybe highlight those a bit more. And then on top of that, talk about the part-time work experience you're doing as well. Just try and be a lot more well-rounded and have different examples you can talk about. The society's part is something you should try and discuss if you've done it, only because it's directly relatable, of course.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. Thanks so much, Tolu. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Wilfred and Tolu, for sharing your wealth of knowledge with us today, and such powerful insights as well. And also thanks to everyone who joined today's session. We hope to see you in our next webinar discussion. And also, please, you can connect with Wilfred and Tolu on LinkedIn, and you can also connect with them via the community, the WhatsApp community as well. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day, and bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.